Hey, this week on the 167, we're talking about how to bring worship that is risky, costly, and controversial. Welcome to the 167.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Hey, welcome back to the 167, where it's just three cool guys talking about three cool
V8s.
things.
Oh, I thought you meant there were three cool guys going to join us. No.
No.
Well, we are the three cool guys. I
we
got
are
you.
the three best friends.
We are the three amigos.
Can we do the what is
Three Musketeers. Ha! Ha! So, all right.
I tried.
it? Man, if you haven't seen the Three Amigos, you should definitely go watch that. I mean, don't watch that.
Yeah,
But-
it's not an endorsement. It's not a shout out.
Watch it like I did as a 90s kid, always on television.
Go
And
back
then when
in
you
time.
put the DVD in with your kids, you'd like, what? I'm
Like,
sorry.
what?
I didn't know that was, I literally
No.
didn't know that was in the movie.
My favorite thing was when I was a kid is to watch like Die Hard on TBN or something like that, or TNN. or
TBN.
something. TBN showing Die Hard. No, it was like on TNN, so he'd be like, "What the flip are you doing, jerk?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
that is not at all what he said.
Yeah.
But hey, we're talking about worship and Die Hard.
That's right. We're
Die
gonna
for your
make it.
sins, Hart.
We're gonna make a 90-degree turn here, really fast.
Do everything as if it is an act of worship, like watching time. No. So this week we were continuing our series. We're talking about worship. It's not just singing; it's sacrifice. And we pulled a little curveball
Yeah,
and did some stuff that was not necessarily singing.
it wasn't singing at all.
No.
It was Andrew.
Some talkie.
Let us read scripture together.
We could have done that, yeah.
Well, it was funny because so we did some responsive reading, we did some other things, and it was funny to watch the reaction of people because some people were like, "What is happening?" And I was like, "The Church of Christ, small boy in me was like, oh, I remember this."
Yeah, so it's a bit interesting. I don't know what it really means, just interesting to me. But yeah, so it was a very different Sunday service. So we had no corporate singing, no band on the stage, no, lights and all the what we're used to. We didn't have any of that. And then this Sunday, I just got through shooting some videos for our guests. We had like 12 or 14 families visit our church for the first time. And they were like, what is this?
Either
Like, they're-
they hate loud bands or something and they loved it, or they, one or the
they're
other.
like, what kind of church is this? They don't even have a band.
Yeah.
Hey, you
So-
don't have to turn down the volume of the band if there's no singing.
Yeah. So, it's like, so anyway, it was just an interesting, wow. I wonder what they thought of that coming in for the first time.
See if they come back.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's like it was funny because we had I met a couple of visitors that actually came from Catholic background, and I'm like, for them, this was still pretty cutting edge.
It still wasn't your grandma's responsive reading.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
There wasn't as many. Oh man, I shouldn't say that.
Have fun
Yeah.
with it.
So,
Have fun with
anyway,
Like,
it was
I had
fun.
a Catholic joke, but so I wanted to ask you guys just personally because we talk about that, like what's comfortable for some people. What do you expect when you walk in a worship service? What are some of the things that you feel really comfortable in worship doing, and where are you starting to kind of hit that uncomfortable that spot? I remember like when I was in college, it was just this ironic thing because I was a worship leader and everything. But when I was worshiping, you knew I was in the zone if I put my hands in my back pocket and was just like, belting it out. But like, then I would get up and lead worship and be like, "Why aren't you raising your hand?" But like for me,
Yeah.
that was something that just wasn't where I was at. So like, I think everybody's got their different things that they're comfortable and not comfortable with. So like, what was some of those things for you guys?
What about you?
Well, to me, so it's kind of like a paradoxical thing because I actually am a very emotional person, like a lot of times on my own. It is not uncommon for me to draw some sort of tears throughout pretty much any day for different reasons, whether it's a stupid movie that I'm like, why is this happening? Why are we watching this?
Stupid Notebook.
The dog's dying.
I know.
I don't want to watch. But or if it's I've got a worship song going or in the car, or I'm just reflecting or I'm thinking about something. It's not uncommon for me to have some sort of tears flowing.
Drinking a Baja Blast.
Yes. When they finally get done with that Taco Bell.
It's
gonna get
have a
emotional
tear
up in
with
here.
the new Taco Bell.
But-
Shout out to Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Sponsored.
Hey, but for some reason, and I do still do that when I'm leading worship, but it's not like usually an open weeping, because I think that's I'm not saying this is right, but I'm saying I think my level is, if I'm going to keep singing and it's going to come out as ugly cry weeping, I will now, I'm not going to stop worshiping. I'm not going to stop trying to participate, but I'm going to now dial it way back to where it, maybe I take a minute and just reflect silently. So that's probably a pride thing, where, I don't want to be out here just like, whoa, so.
Well, I mean, if you're leading other people,
Or
you have
even
to-
if I'm not, though, I still
I
would.
see.
Like, even if
Yeah.
I'm, even sometimes if I'm in the car by myself, it's just me and Jesus or whatever, and
you got to keep it on the road.
I'm just like, well, true, maybe it's safety driving. I don't know, but that's probably my level where
Right, but you're trying to dial it. You're trying to keep it under control.
I try to say, well, what do I need to do to not be just weeping, ugly crying? But every now and then, if I'm in a place where I'm, doing a quiet time or worship, to myself, and no one's around, I'll let it out. I'll let it fly, and I think, well, that was probably good for me.
Yeah.
Felt
So
good.
for me, so I've got a couple different categories here, but in the corporate Sunday morning singing, like expressing worship, I've got no problem. I'm totally comfortable raising hands, singing, clapping, a little
You don't say.
Sway.
a little hip sway,
Not too
shifting.
much.
Now shifting from foot to foot,
Yeah.
tapping, kind of being
Well, you
in
don't want to
rhythm.
pass out.
So, man, I'm all in, totally on board with that. Where I would get a little out of my comfort zone is like people are like, let's jump, and it's like, okay, jumping, like it's
My knees.
Well,
it's an
jumping
expressive
used to be
form.
easier.
Yeah, it's an expressive form of worship, but it's like, ow, that hurts my knee. But beyond hurting my knee, it's just a little uncomfortable. Like, you go to a wedding reception, like I'm all about going on the dance floor and dancing with Trudy and having but I'm a little uncomfortable like dancing, like it feels a little awkward, so I like dial it back there.
It's hitched. You got to stay right here.
Yeah, and I do, like I'll keep it high and tight. Shout out to Bradenburg, listen to the 167. Shout out to you. For Ashton, like I've been their dance coach since they were kids, and
High
I'd
and
see him. Oh yeah, I'd tell them, just man, don't go crazy, just keep it high and tight, just keep it in the groove, and you'll be good. So shout out to them. So those are things that are uncomfortable in corporate. In personal worship, just other forms of worship, solitude, like to worship in solitude and silence, totally uncomfortable. Like I'm a people person. I'm a be out and about, connecting, taking a day or a period of time of just solitude, no music, no voices, no other people, and just be quiet. That's uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with the silence part. I think that, if we're talking about things that aren't necessarily corporate, I think just that solitude and fasting for me, like, it's just one of those things that I quickly, fasting, it's not that it's hard to not eat, it's that I quickly lose interest in the actual thing behind it. I'm just like, oh, I cannot eat. And I'm like, yeah, but am I spending that time in prayer and solitude and reflection?
Then it's just a diet.
Yeah. Then I just skipped meals.
Yeah, then it becomes, I can do
Intermittent
this.
fasting.
Yeah.
Now it's the principle, I am not going to eat.
Yeah,
True.
but I think it's weird because I think having, the daughters that I do, so like, you guys see Evie when my wife Chris is on the worship team, and so like we'll bring our kids early to church, and Evie she's in ballet, she dances, like if the kids have the flags at First Friday, she loves to do that. And so it was funny because there are certain things that I am certainly not comfortable doing myself. And it's like, but we were at this event, and I was with Cam and Casey, our previous youth pastor, and his wife, and there was some women that were doing flags, and Casey made some remark about it. And I remember I looked at her and I was like, yeah, Evie loves to do that. And she goes, I bet Evie is so cute when she does that. I said, yeah, I'm hoping that's what God thinks of those women.
Yeah.
Like, because like Evie Evie does stuff to worship that I would never do, because she just dances around and she is so expressive. And like, I never once think that she is doing that to get attention.
No.
And like, yeah, like you've seen her do it. And I'm going, but would I do that? Probably not.
Yeah, and I've got, again, something that I'm not comfortable doing, but I have friends that I've been on staff with at churches. I have worshiped with them in their kind of places of worship. And it's common at various times during the sermon or the singing time to just jump up and make a couple of laps, just run around the church.
That's
You
funny.
know, just
Yeah,
right
that's a
around the
good-
sanctuary, and it's like, that's awesome. I would not do that.
Yeah.
Right.
But for them, it was just that unexpected
Got a spiritual
hit, and I got
zoomies.
to boom, and I got to run, and I got to run.
Well, it's funny too, because like being like speakers and pastors, a lot of times it feels good when you're speaking and somebody's like, "Yeah, pastor, get it," and I'm like, very rarely. Like I'm
Preach it, white boy.
yeah, because like when you're speaking, I'm going, I'm listening, I'm tuned in, I'm writing something
Yeah.
down, and it doesn't occur to me to talk back to
Right.
you. But a lot of times, like people do that, and I feel very encouraged when that happens.
Right.
But I am less likely to actually
Yeah.
do that myself.
Yes. Yeah, I
So,
agree.
but yeah, I think that, you know, as you age, I mean, like I went to a lot of Christian concerts where I was down front jumping, and
Yeah.
age just kind of gets to you for a while. But
Yeah.
when we were talking about, which was weird because the hands in this week was tears and hair. We kept talking about tears and hair, but we were talking about the woman who brings in the jar of nard. She breaks it. She washes Jesus' feet with her hair and her tears and this perfume. And I loved it that you said, you used these three adjectives. You said it was risky, it was costly, and it was controversial. And I started to wonder to myself, what does that look like today, that we would do something that was risky, you know, controversial and costly?
Yeah. So I can, again, so the mindset behind that was, okay, again, I said the tears were not planned. She just started crying, but
Yeah.
she had thought long and hard about that. She had to bring it with her.
Right.
And so she planned to do something with it. So she knew it was going to cost something. I don't know that it doesn't tell us if beforehand she had decided like I'm dumping it all out, or if that was just in the moment. But her holding that box, that container of this expensive ointment, perfume, and then opening it up like it was a risk, because she was where she didn't belong. She was out of place. You had all these religious leaders. You had the Messiah. And now I'm going to take a risk. And I'm going to do something that I feel compelled to do in my spirit to give honor and glory to Jesus. She didn't read it in a manual. It wasn't like, hey,
This is a common form of worship.
Hey, I've been watching this go on, and this is how people normally worship. And like it was risky. Okay?
Risky business.
And so, but it was also costly. No matter how much she would have chosen to pour out, it was going to cost her something. So it was costly. But because she decided, I'm going to go all in. Like, it is going to cost me everything. This is all I have. So not only was it costly, then it became controversial, because the other guys in the room were like, well, that was dumb. Like,
we could have sold
yeah,
that.
you just wasted. And then I kind of focused on that. When you give, whatever you give to the Lord, if you pour it all out, it's never wasted. And so the controversy might be among other people. The controversy will never be between you and Jesus. There will be no controversy there. Jesus will welcome it and honor that and bless that. The controversy is going to come with other people who say, look at them jumping up and down. Look at them running around the church. Look at them dancing in the house. Look at them. All right, so then that's where the controversy comes in.
I love the backseat driving sometimes that exists where people go, well, I would have done it this way. And I'm like, but you didn't do it at all.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, did you go out and sell this and give it to the... No.
Right. If
What am
if that's what you really wanted to do, you could already be doing that.
Yeah, if it was something that was super extravagant, like I think, like, nowadays, if it was like risky, costly, and controversial, and this is just, I've actually heard of somebody doing this, but they sold their home and gave the proceeds to the church, and I'm like going, holy cow,
That's
like,
costly.
yes, and I'm like, that is going to incite a lot of criticism of going, well, what are they going to do for, like, now he's taking his children out of the house, he's like, and it's this thing, and it's like, it's not about you. And it's
Do you
like,
know the name of the person?
No.
No. I was gonna reach out.
No, but it is. It's one of those things. I've heard that happen, and then it's like then the church feels responsible for the people, and it's this whole mess. And it's something that I think is so cool because she comes and does this thing and gives this extravagant gifts, and everybody's got an opinion on it, but nobody else did anything. That's what Jesus said. He says, "You didn't
Yeah.
give me a
Yeah, you didn't wash my feet. You didn't give me a kiss on the cheek. You didn't oil my
for my
hair.
head,
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah, and so for her, it was costly financially, which is part of worship. Okay, so Paul instructs the Corinthian church, when you come, like, decide ahead of time, like, you decide how much of an offering, what finances you're going to give, like, so that's premeditated. Like, I'm coming to worship with an idea. I'm going to give this amount, right? It's what she did. I'm determining ahead of time what I'm bringing, and then it changed. I think it changed, and she just, when she got there, she gave it all. So just because you decide, hey, I'm going to bring $100, that might change to give more, to give it all, to sell your house. I don't know what it means. So, but it'll never be wasted. But it's not just singing, and it's not just money. So when you decide ahead of time what I'm bringing to worship, am I bringing, my tears? I don't want to steal Andrew's thunder for this coming Sunday, but what am I bringing? Because it's more than the money.
Yeah.
Right? It's more. You're not just bringing money. You're bringing, what are you bringing? And did you decide, hey, I'm coming into his presence, and I decided ahead of time, I'm going to worship. I'm going to give him glory.
Well, I think what's funny sometimes is I think the most costly thing that we bring in worship is our own pride and our fear of how other people will perceive our gift.
Yep.
Yeah. So in line with that, how about for an equivalent, costly, risky thing to bring as an act of worship? I thought of maybe outward confession. So an outward confession of sin. Like I remember this one time at a college worship service, I had got on a real kick of this scriptural idea of confessing your sins to one another. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a powerful night. This is going to be a powerful night. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to play this song. It was this 10th Avenue North song. This is where the healing begins. And the whole thing is about, getting over your pride and doing that. And we're going to do this. And that was a real cutting edge song back then. So then I say, all right, now here's what we're going to do. I've got like 100 college kids here. Here's what we're going to do. I don't care if you know them. Just turn to the person next to you. Just start.
Just tell them the
Start
worst
in.
thing you've
Yeah,
ever
just
done.
And just start confessing. Man, nobody did anything.
Yeah, I like where you're going with that.
Nobody
It's
did
powerful.
anything. Nobody, like, literally, it did not work. It was what I was like.
I thought you were going to be like, I put a mic. in
No,
the-
they didn't even. No, I didn't warm them up well enough for something or whatever, or I was right where I needed to be, and they just didn't. Whatever. But so the idea of sharing those vulnerable things. I know you guys deal with that at Freedom a lot too. Just getting over that at your table, and
that is one of the most
it's a powerful
things
thing.
yeah,
but
at Freedom.
that is costly, or at least in your mind, and risky in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. I mean, unless we're confessing like crimes still in the statute of limitation.
Some of that happens, yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's a costly thing for a lot of reasons for you personally when you confess. But that is an act of worship.
Yeah. And like I said, I think that it goes to, whenever you talk about pride and the fear of man, it's like, I think that is, I kind of go preloaded into worship. And I like this idea because you talked about it, you said the word premeditated. And I love that idea of premeditated worship of, I've already decided what I'm going to come and give at the altar this Sunday. And it's like, because then it's like it doesn't matter what the song is because I've decided that I'm going to give this, and so it takes the pressure off. Well, it wasn't the perfect song and it wasn't the perfect message. It's about what I'm going to bring. And so I kind of was thinking about that because you talked a little bit about that this week, and it's I saw a clip recently on Instagram Reels where somebody was talking about that. He said he brought up this guy out of his congregation, and he said this guy, he was jacked, and he said the difference between me is I go work out so that I can eat something bad, and he looks at that and says, why would I eat something bad? I have to go work out. It's like, and that different mentality of, and I thought about the thing that people is popular now in diets is what's called staying in ketosis.
I've done that.
Yeah, so it's trying to keep your body in a certain state. And I thought about worship in that way of how do we keep our bodies in a state of worship ketosis so that when we show up on Sunday, it's not like showing up to the gym once a week. You haven't stretched, you don't know what you're doing, you haven't planned out your
We've
workout.
also done that.
Yeah, but it's that idea of I've premeditated this throughout the week. So I know that you have some resources that are available to people. Like you post the actual set for Sunday.
How can we get that?
Where can people find that?
Can you put a QR code right here on the? Do you have the editing power? Or is that like a bunch of work for you? Just
Maybe
right here. I can send it to you. The
but
QR
if not,
code.
on Sunday morning, there's a slide that they can scan
Yes.
as well, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times I just end up showing people that in person, but it's on our social, our creative social, New Life Creative.
I'll tell you what, I will commit to that. If you go over to YouTube, I will put a link in the description, and I will try and edit the QR code right here with Andrew.
That'd be cool. But yeah, I mean, it's praying without ceasing. That's a biblical mandate, a biblical idea. Same thing if you were to go work out really hard. And that is the thing that I struggle with is when I work out, I only know how to go 100%, which is really not wise. Because if I'm only doing that, I don't know. I need to be able to do it more regularly and not exert everything I have and just do a more sustainable, constant state of consistency exercise where I'm just getting all the benefits without wrecking myself and I'm too sore, or I'm only doing it once a week instead of 3 or 4 times a week. But the same would be true in worship. Like we're not just trying to break in cold. We're not trying to come in a hurry, like we talked about on Sunday. I've had a few people. A lot of people had real positive interactions with that service on Sunday, but a lot of it was, I like what you said about not being in a hurry. I really haven't thought of it that much. I said being in that moment, trying to be educational and say, doesn't this feel better? Not being in a hurry, calm, mindful. They're like, yeah, I'm not doing that enough at all.
Yeah, the premeditation or the preparation, however you want to say it. So we do sermon series. It's typically how we function and we progress. So everyone who attends New Life knows what the series is. Okay, so we're in a series called Heart of Worship. Well, part of the premeditation of coming to worship through the week would be, hey, do a little bit of reading and studying on what worship is. Like, don't just wait to show up on Sunday to hear a sermon about worship. Do some work on your own. Look in Scripture. Where does it talk about worship? What is worship? Why worship? Read some articles. Okay, so that's being prepared and kind of premeditated preparation for the sermon. Go and listen to the songs so in the link listed here. So you know the songs
QR
are
code of anything?
Yeah, so I don't have a QR code.
Vanna White.
Yeah. So, and to familiarize yourself with the songs, get them in. So then when we sing them, like you're already engaged, great way, right? Pray, like just pray for the service, pray for your involvement in the service, pray for the people leading the services. All those things are in preparation for actually coming. And you're like, hey, I've already decided, man, I'm going to hit the ground running on Sunday.
Yeah, I think those are all good things to be thinking about in the sense of, like you're saying, that you're going, have already decided I'm going to do this, and so if I have a goal, I'm going to set these little mile markers. A couple of resources just to resource you if you're watching or listening. BibleGateway.com. You could type in the word worship. It has a topical index, so that's all you'd have to do. You can go to the Bible app or Bible.com. Same thing. They have a topical index. They have reading plans based on those things.
YouVersion.
Yeah, that's a U version. So there are lots of resources out there that you can do to prep. Even just downloading our own app and reviewing the sermon notes and looking at those scriptures and rereading those things. Rewatch the sermon as like a like a lot of times when you go to see your favorite show, it's like last week on XYZ. It's just like you could review it in preparation. But this last question I want to ask, we only have a couple minutes left. What would be your tip for somebody to just reduce the awkwardness? Like sometimes, like I will give you this very practical tip that is kind of weird, but I always think about it. I have a couple of long line shirts that I wear on every Sunday because I figure if I raise my hands, I don't want my belly button showing.
Hey,
and so
practical.
I literally dress appropriately for how I want to worship that Sunday. And so it puts me at ease, and I'm not worried about how do I look or how to like anything like that. I'm just going, hey, I can put my hands up and I can do this because I have premeditated. I have said like, I'm planning on doing this. And so I'm going to dress appropriately.
Yeah. So for me, in my head, as I thought it sounded bad. So don't take this the way I mean it or something. So I don't care. Like, I don't care. I don't
It's
care.
me and Jesus in the room.
Yeah. So I don't care if someone says, oh man, you're clapping kind of loud. Okay. I don't care. And you were singing loud. I don't care. Like, I'm not singing for you. And so I do understand that I don't want to be the focus of, so I am mindful of the people around me. And if, like, I could sing louder. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I can
but
usually hear you on Sunday morning.
but again, like I said, I didn't say it to be disrespectful, and I don't say it now to be disrespectful, but I'm not singing for you or to you. And I think a lot of people could relate to my heart attitude, which is, if you knew where I come from and you knew what some of my struggles are, you would not question the way I worship. Right? So when people are very expressive in worship, if you know a little bit about their past, you know why it's so.
Like, we look at this woman and go, of course she did that. She was a hooker.
Yeah.
But we're really good people, so we don't have to go as intense.
Everybody's got a past. And so if, again, for the person who was forgiven much, they're going to love much, man. They're going to be way more expressive. So
I think trying to think through the why of worship instead of just the what. A lot of times we don't get past just the what of what we're doing. I don't like that. Or I like that song. I don't like that song. We're singing a song. We're praying. We're just in the what of it. But if we can break past that and be very, very mindful of why am I worshiping, maybe if it is a song, we're taking the words that we're singing and we're really thinking about those words. I had an old friend at another situation, and she was really, really passionate that we should be singing out of the hymnal more often. To each their own. She was real passionate about that. That's about all I'd ever hear.
that's
from
the
her.
thing. People want that.
She did, yeah. That's all about about all I'd ever hear from her.
Yeah.
Was we need to be singing out of the hymnal. Out of the hymnal. It wasn't enough just to be singing a hymn every now and then. It needs to be out of the hymnal. And I would just try to be nice or whatever. And one time, someone else intercepted this for me, and I was convicted by their response. Like, why didn't I think of that? But he said, you know what? Name I will not mention on the podcast.
No shout out for you.
Yeah. When I think about all that God's done for me, and, when I'm thinking about the goodness of God that we might be singing, or when I'm thinking about whatever, I just don't care about that stuff. Like, it's just not as important. And the way that he said it, it was, it just kind of shut her up. I mean, in a holy way, shut her up. Because she was like, "You right." But that, trying to think about the why and the actual meat and potatoes of what we're doing is different than just not getting past that superficial what of what we're doing. And so hopefully no one has to look the same in worship. There's not like a right exact way to do it. But I think you can tell when you're not engaging in the way that you should be. So what is that? And getting past that superficial level is very important to finding out what you should be doing.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
Absolutely. I think that, and I want to invite everybody to, of course, come back this week. We're going to try some other forms of worship. You're speaking this week? Mm-hmm. Our own Andrew Lewis is going to
Shouldn't
be
have
speaking
said that.
this
No,
week.
they won't come.
Well, it's
They
gonna be
will.
great.
It's going to be good.
Check it out.
And then we invite you, like I said, I always encourage people to do that. If you're like, well, singing's not really my thing, that's fine. If you want to read scripture, if you want to pray during the worship, like whatever you want to do, like while people are worshiping, but just don't.
If singing is
stand
not
there.
your thing, then definitely come this week.
Yeah, we can tell if you're like deep in contemplation or if you're just sipping your coffee and you're like, I don't care about this.
Thinking about your fantasy lineup. Yeah.
Aren't we all? No. Thanks, guys, for joining us here on the 167. We will see you here next week, where hopefully our own Andrew Lewis will be returning, and we'll ask him
Sure.
about all the crazy things that he said in his sermon.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. If you enjoyed this episode of the 167, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, get notified, leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. Tell all your friends to listen as well. Make sure you go over to newlifegardener.com and check out all that we have to offer as a church, and check out our messages online as well. Thanks for listening.